Another Patreon Q&A. Thank you again, Patreon, so much for your support and for your questions. There are many questions today, but we will take it step by step. If you are a Patreon, come join us on Discord. There's a lovely community on Discord and monthly challenges with giveaways. Yes, there are also prizes. If you are not a Patreon, consider joining us on Patreon. Again, lovely community, all sorts of different extra stuff, patches, videos, documents, and so on. And also the Discord community with challenges, giveaways, feedback, and all sorts of different things. So come join us on Patreon. We will start with the first question. This is coming from Roman Poyo. Hi. I have a question for the next Q&A. Which modules would you like to see in hardware in Eurorack? Personally, I think of the ADDR sequencer and glass pane. So of course, there are so many modules that I would love to see in hardware. Also the other way around, many modules in hardware I would love to see in VCV, but that's a different subject. Really lots and lots of modules. You already mentioned the ADDR, which is amazing. I would love to have like 3 or 5 of them in my case. Like small sequencers, there's nothing available like this. Small sequencer, individual clock, reset, all sorts of different small little features that are helpful. Just 8 steps or something like this for modulation, for sequencing, for phasing in and out and all sorts of stuff. Not available. I wish the ADDR would be available in hardware. And again, you mentioned glass pane, which is also quite a beautiful module. I'm not so sure how it will work in hardware because you will need many patch cables. It can get quite messy quite quickly, but maybe there is a way, maybe not 16 steps, maybe 8 steps or something like this. But it's quite an amazing module that will be really fun in hardware. I would like to see also Ice Tray if you are already in the PathSet collection. Which is a sort of a new take on the looping, delay, micro looping, all sorts of these little things. It's quite, I really enjoy this module. I really fell in love with it. You can get all sorts of different textures with it. It's really cool. It would be nice to see something like this in hardware. And also the mixer, the granular mixer also from PathSet, which is a mixer, but it's also granular. You can freeze the audio, you can granularize it, you can pan it in all sorts of different ways. Can be also quite interesting. And again, there are so many modules, seriously, so many modules in VCV that can be really, really interesting. Also in hardware, some of them are already available in all sorts of different variations. Like for example, I use Quank a lot, but this is also available. Where is it? Somewhere here, up. Also available in hardware. All sorts of mixers, VCAs, many are available. Also in hardware. But something I would love having is like a skiff or a case with full of the geodesics. First of all, the modules are amazing, but they also look, they are just beautiful. And I would love to have like a skiff full of the geodesics, hopefully one day, who knows. But yeah, amazing modules, Torus, really interesting, filter, fate, to add all sorts of different variations. The sequencers, Entropia and Ions are beautiful. Pulsars is great. Something like Pulsars in hardware could be really amazing. I'm sure it will be quite expensive because there are many ins and outs. But yeah, it can be quite interesting. Black holes. Just imagine having black holes in hardware. You have 8, not only, VCAs, but they are actually attenuverters. You can create all sorts of different things, also mixing and stuff. Yeah, so really beautiful modules. Would love to have them also in hardware, and also they just, they look good. All right, thank you for the question. So the next question is coming from Peter. Hi Peter, I have the following question. Would it be possible to run more than one instance of VCVREC or VCVREC and other soft scenes together and control mix them similar to the insane $1 million setup of Kebu, and using that for a live performance, just using cheap keyboards controllers for each synth? That would be outstanding. Well, you had a conversation there already with someone who suggested a few things. So there is the Jig Performer, where you can host VSTs, so you can host VCV VST and other VSTs on your laptop and control them in all sorts of ways. There is also this one that you found, the Sev iHost, again, that you can host You can host VSTs and control them with controllers and stuff. But I have a question. If you already have the VCV VST, so why not load it in a DAW, something like Ableton or Bitwig, that are perfect for live performances? You can load as many as you want. You can have as many as your CPU, the computer will allow you to, but you can have different tracks with different VCV instruments, different VST instruments. Then you can add effects, you can loop, you can record, you can process this in all sorts of ways inside a DAW. Again, Ableton or Bitwig, I guess, would be perfect for live performances. I love Bitwig. But Ableton is also great for looping and all sorts of different things. So why not just use it in a DAW? Why do you need a different host to host the VSTs? And then you need all of the VSTs to load there, also reverbs and delays and stuff like this. Instead, just use DAW as your host. And again, it will be much easier for you also to map things, I guess, MIDI. You can use samples, you can launch all sorts of different clips and stuff like this. It will be much easier, I guess, for a live performance. And you can have as many keyboards and controllers you want, or as many as you have USB connections. And then just control everything. So think about it. If you already have the VCV VST, why not use just a DAW and have the DAW as your host and do everything there? The next question is coming from Paiche. Tips for turning very bloopy sounding voices into something more organic sounding. I'm guessing a function of waveform layering and envelope shaping. So we spoke a bit and you mentioned an ARP, a repetitive ARP, sort of a simple sound, how to make it a bit more organic and full of motion. So here I have an example. I have here an ARP, right? I just have notes G, D, F, and B flat. I'm arpeggiating those notes, and the voice I have here is a very simple voice. I have a saw wave going through a low pass filter, and there's a VCA and envelope. It will sound like this. There is some send reverb, by the way. Right, so a very repetitive ARP, arpeggio. Right, and now let me show you a few things you can try to turn it into this. Much more movement, much more motion. It's more alive. Right, so again I have here the same ARP. The first thing I did is I cross-faded between two different waveforms. So I have, in this case, I'm using a saw and a square, and with fade, the new module from VCV, I cross-fade between them, in this case with walk, so with a smooth random voltage. Basically changing the timbre of this voice a bit. Again, adding motion, adding movement. Then I added another oscillator, which is tuned an octave down. Something also important is a bit detune your oscillators a bit from one another. This also creates a nice motion. In VCV, like, everything is tuned perfectly. So if you have two oscillators, they will be tuned exactly the same. Just detune them a bit from one another, just to add this organic analog sound, I guess. Right, so again, it's tuned an octave down, a bit detuned, and also here I'm cross-fading between the first result here, between the saw and square, and this sort of sub-oscillator. So I'm cross-fading between them again, adding movement, adding motion. Right, this is going to the filter. Then I added some modulation for the decay, for the envelope. More or less it will come in random times. Right, just again to add motion, to add variation. Right, for this I used chances to add probability to this clock, and then an envelope to bring up the decay. Right, and then what I did, this I do all the time, it adds a really nice layer to everything. After the filter, I sent the voice to a high pass filter, and from the high pass filter to a delay and reverb, and also panning modulation, again with another fade I add also panning modulation. So only the high frequencies or the higher frequencies, in this case somewhere above 400 Hz, will actually go to the delay and reverb, and you can hear this movement. Right, maybe I can solo this. Right, so if I close the filter a bit, the low pass, it will be less. If I open it, it will be more. Right? And I love doing this because it adds lots of weight to the sound. It adds a bit more life, I guess. It's not so static. So those are a few things you can do. One other thing you can try is using a filter bank. I don't know if you're using hardware and you have one in hardware. There is a new one which I forgot from which developer it is. There's a new filter bank that should be really interesting, also not so big in hardware. But in VCV there are different ones you can use. For example, the PAC 6 from Bogue Audio. So use a filter bank to add more layers to the sound. Actually, I have a video about this on Patreon. I think you have also access to it. Sound designing with the filter bank, with PAC 6 in this case, again adding layers, adding motion, adding movement to a sound, turning a simple sound into something a bit more organic, as you said, a bit more alive, again adding motion, really important, layering, and all sorts of different little things you can add, like morphing between waveforms and stuff like this, or just simple modulation, again just to make a sound a bit more alive and a bit less repetitive. The next question is from Michael. Hi Michael, is there a module that automates the mixer, i.e. MIDI mixer in MyRack? I don't have MyRack, I don't own any iOS devices, so I cannot test it also. I'm not so sure which mixer you're referring to. What is this MIDI mixer? But I checked and I saw that the Bido collection is available for MyRack, which means that you will have also Acne from Bido, which is a mixer with snapshots. So you can set snapshots for this mixer and then automate and do all sorts of different things with it. And from this mixer, you can send it to all sorts of different processing if you want. So here I have an example. Let me just show you quickly how this is working. I have here Zume, also from Bido, sequencing a kick with a Tremor 2, hi-hats with Tremor 2, bass with kick all, and a sort of a voice with the FM operator. Right, and this is going to inputs 1 to 4 on this Acne module, and I have the first 4 outputs going. 3 are going directly to the mixer, and this FM operator is going first through a reverb. Again, you can process the sounds however you want. And again, we can save snapshots here. Right, so for example, let's say the first, let me just initialize this. The first snapshot, I want to have just the bass and the hi-hats. Right? It's set to auto save. I'm going to click save anyway, just in case. Right, then the second snapshot, I want to have the kick. You can also copy paste here. I'm just doing this. Right, I want to have the kick and the hi-hats and the bass. And then the third one, I want all of them. Right, again, you can copy paste. There are all sorts of things you can do with this one. But now we have all of the voices. Right, in different snapshots. So now if I want to go back to the first one, right? And like this, you can create snapshots and go back and forth and basically automate this. Now there's another module from Bido that can help you with this. It's called Atre or Atre or something like this. And you have 2 CV outputs that you can use to switch basically between the snapshots. There's the CV input for the snapshots, and you can switch between the snapshots either with the keyboard or with the external voltage or with this module here, and you can set each step. And what the nice thing about it is that it will be quantized to a clock. You see there is a step input here which will quantize everything you do to a clock. So if I connect the CV to the CV input of the CV1 to the CV input of Acne, and again I set it up to, so I have snapshot 1, 2, and 3. And now if I want to switch to snapshot 2, I will click this button here, and it will be quantized to the clock. It will switch only with the clock, right? You see it's turning red, it's waiting for the next clock, and only then it's switching. Right, so like this you can create snapshots and you can automate your mixer. Again, from this mixer, from Acne, you can send the signals through all sorts of different processing, mute solo, you can mute a whole line, you can mix things, of course. If you want to send the bass and the hi-hats through the same channel, you can send them throughout the same channel. You have also ramp, so you can sort of morph between the snapshots or the settings. Right, so you can create all sorts of different mixes with this and automate them. I hope this is helpful. Again, I'm not so sure what is the MIDI mixer, but maybe this module can help you. The next question is from Abby. Please make a video about using VCV drum machine. So I have a few actually on the VCV drum machine. I have a live stream, how are the new VCV drums. Of course, I will put links in the description to everything. A whole live stream about the VCV drums and drum machine. I have using it as a synth voice, so also exploring using it not only for drums, but also as a synth voice, which is quite interesting. And I also have a video comparing the drums to the Hora and to the Proc drums. So again, there are 3 videos already. If there is anything else you would like to see, let me know. I will see what I can do about it. I will put the links in the description to the videos. Go have fun. The next question is from Marcus. Hi Marcus, is there any good module for making Moog-like bass sounds together with some cool module filters? I don't think, I mean, unless you add lots and lots of processing and all sorts of different things to enhance the sound, I don't think you can get a Moog sound out of VCV, although maybe you can get something similar, you can get close. But again, you will need a lot of post-processing and many ways to enhance the sound after the fact. So after VCV, I guess. I'm not so sure, maybe I just have to experiment with this more. Can be a nice challenge to create a nice bass Moog sound. But again, you can create something similar. Basically think about, for example, the Module D. It has 3 oscillators, some noise. I have here 3 oscillators. And I have also the output going back to the input. So I have here also a feedback loop just to add some more crunchiness to the sound. I believe this was made with the headphones output. You would connect the headphones output to the input and you will mix it. So there is a sort of a feedback loop. And I have a few filters here that we can check, we can test. Right, so for example, if we try Lateralus, I will go with the 24 dB. Of course, it's a ladder filter. Right, and again, we can add this feedback loop a bit. Right, it is crunchy. Ooh. Right, it is crunchy. There is also one from Autin, which is also stereo. Oh. Let's try with feedback. Ooh. Nice. Another one, let's take the feedback down, is from Bido, and again a stereo filter. It's amazing how different they are from one another, right? I mean, it's a low-pass filter, but still. Oh. If if I send, for example, the envelope also to the filter, very nice sounding filter. Another one is the Instruo IO. Oh no, this is a tray, which is also a leather filter. Let's again add the envelope without feedback. With, oh man. Right, so just those four filters sound totally different, but they all sounds really nice. I think this feedback loop is quite is adding quite a lot to the sound. So try experimenting with this as well. And again, have like 2 or 3 oscillators. Add some noise here. I didn't add a noise. And one of these filters, which is sounding quite nicely. You can also try basically the Model D from Mokba or Moskva Modular. Which is a clone, I guess, of the Model D. Right, it has all of the different features and I think some other features. That's the headphones. Okay, it's all the way loud. All right. This sounds nice. This is a commercial module, but again, if the Moog sound is what you're after, maybe this is for you. Very nice sounding, and I like Volt if you want. I mean, this is not really a Moog sound. I mean, it's not a Moog setup, I guess, but it is really nice sounding. I love everything Volt. Sounds rich and deep. Right, so I have here Vesic and Basel. I'm mixing Vesic and Basel. Basel is sort of a sine wave going through some saturation, and crash with the Briatus going through tangents. I know it's not a leather filter, but still it sounds quite nice. 2 envelopes, one for the filter, one for the VCA, which is punch, that adds even more crunch. Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah, so you can experiment with this. I will save this here, this selection, this patch, and I will save also the first one with the 4 filters. All of them are free, so you can download the selections. I will put this on Patreon so you can download it. Again, experiment with the oscillators, also the filters. If you are looking for a specific Moog sound, and maybe the Model V, in this case it's called, for Moskva, will be for you, and of course some Volt goodness. The next question is from Gerald. Hi Gerald, I don't know if this would be possible or if anyone else would be interested, but it would be really good if now and then you could set a task. For instance, give us a set amount of modules that we have to make something as interesting as possible, or just general stuff that would test our knowledge and get our creative juices flowing. Not that you don't already, and you may have done this before, but I thought I would ask. Cheers, Gerald. So yes, every month, as I mentioned before, on the Discord channel, every month there is a challenge that you can participate in. Just join our Discord I think you're already there, Gerald. I'm not so sure. If not, come join our Discord. Every month there is a different challenge. There are also giveaways, fun stuff you can get. Where I just say, for example, this month we have electronic dance music without 4 on the floor kick. Last month we had using the notes from the Stranger Things theme, not making a cover, but just using the notes. So every month there is something else. Also, every once in a while, I make sorts of giveaways on the main YouTube channel. I do this usually with Vult, for example, and stuff like this. I should make more. I just don't. I'm not so sure. I don't have time or something like this. I'm not so sure why I'm not. I should make more giveaways because it's always fun to give something back. But yeah, come join our Discord. It's fun. Okay, then the next question, if that's been done, I like to use a dialogue and vocal sample sometimes. What will be the best module for using vocal samples with a view to glitching and adding effects, etc. further down the patch chain? So I'm not so sure about best. I'm not so fond of this best module or best way. There are many ways you can do stuff. What will work for you, that's for you to decide. I can show you a few examples. So here I have a sample. I have it loaded on the sampler from Lomas, right? It sounds like this.
What goes on in my mind is impossible.
This is something I downloaded from freesound.com. You can all go in there and download it. Just make sure to use the right license. I use the license that I can use it for free. So this is why I'm showing you this here. So first one, of course, the first one you should experiment with is Simpliciter. So if I connect Simpliciter.
Everything I speak.
Right, we don't need stereo actually, it's a mono sample.
Nothing is
right now we can.
What goes on in my mind is impossible to comprehend.
Right, we can modulate.
Just know that it's
we can let it play in reverse. We can also slice the samples. We can make this automatically here, and then in the right-click menu we can change the peak detection, so the threshold where it will detect the peaks, as you can see here. Right, and then the distance between them.
Just know everything in my mind is impossible, hard to know that it just knows on in my mind everything seems.
Right, we can also trigger this.
It's hard to just know of what I my mind note of what I just know.
You can trigger this externally, or we can have it loop, and you can also set your own slices, right? So let's say I want this here to be a slice.
Everything I speak, everything I speak, everything I
Right, and you can save this, and then you can have another one.
Deeper meaning, deeper meaning, deeper meaning.
Right, and then you can just switch between them.
Deeper meaning, deeper meaning, deeper meaning. Everything I, deeper. Everything I, deeper. Everything I, deeper.
Right, and you can sequence this, and you can randomize this, and you can modulate this, and do all sorts of different things with this sample. Chop it, splice it, do all sorts of different things with the sample. Really fun. Another module that I really like, I mentioned it also before, is the Ice Tray from PathSet, which is basically you have 6 buffers that will record and play back in all sorts of different ways. What I like doing is starting from an empty patch, more or less. So if I take the Frozen all the way to the right, I made also a video all about it. So if you want, you can have a look. And then just turn off all of the buffers, right, until they are black, right? And then I will connect the sample and connect the output. Right, and now I can say I want to record, let's say, about 2 seconds. Right, I will record it here.
It seems.
Right, and now I can also pitch it up. I can record a pitch up also. So let's say I will record it here.
It seems.
Right, and let's say I want less, and I can record this to another buffer, and you have 6 of them.
It seems.
Everything I speak
to comprehend.
Right, and you can clock the playback.
To count it seem.
Everything I speak.
To count it seem.
Everything I speak.
To
Create rhythms, or you can also make this go totally random.
Everything I
it seem.
And continue recording.
To count.
Everything I speak.
To count.
Everything I speak.
To count it seem.
Everything I
Right,
speak.
To count it seem.
Everything I speak.
To count.
change the pitch.
To count.
Everything I speak.
It seem.
Everything I speak.
To count it seem.
Everything I speak.
Comprehend. It's to count.
Add repeats.
Everything I speak has a
to comprehend,
everything
to comprehend,
everything I speak
Right, and again.
see, to see,
speak
Right, create all sorts of different rhythms and glitches and stuff like this. Really interesting stuff you can do with this module. Another one from Path said this is commercial. It's the granular mixer. So you can mix different dialogues. You can mix different different positions of the vocal sample.
comprehend. Just know that it's hard to express.
Right, maybe I can make this a bit louder.
Make note of what I say. Everything I speak has a deeper meaning.
Then you can freeze it.
I speak has a deeper meaning. Thing I speak.
Right, and then you can change the length
I speak.
and the starting point.
Is a deeper meaning. Is a deeper. Is a deep. 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 Speak. 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 Is a deep. Is a deep. Is a deep. Is a deep. I speak. Thing I speak is a deeper meaning. Is a deep. Is a speak. Thing I speak.
Right, so this is another module, and again it's a mixer, so you can mix it. And of course there is also Supercell. Again, let me connect the sample. Supercell,
Just know that it's hard to express as well.
I like the pitch shifter time stretcher mode.
Make note of what everything I speak.
Right, and again also here you can freeze it.
Nothing is what.
Right, change the size, the position.
Is it?
The density will change the smearing of the sound. Change the pitch.
Everything I speak. Everything I speak.
Add modulation. Reverb. Right, so again, those modules you can really experiment with. Other than Sifter, all of them are available for free. Simpliciter, Ice Tray, and Supercell. Yes, go experiment and have fun. The next question is from Fik. Hi Fik, I'd love you to have a look at the song On a Zarg by Vlod and listen to the sound design, and there are some ideas on how to patch that would be superb. So first of all, everyone, after you finish watching this video, go and listen to the whole album. This is the first track from, I forgot how the album is called, but it's a great album. One of the, so Vlod, one of them is Via Yobos, maybe you're familiar with him. Really interesting way of using the modular. And I believe the other one, the other guy there is some sort of a drummer, because there are live drums throughout this album. It sounds like a jazz drum player, processing the drums in all sorts of different ways. There is live playing there. I'm sure of it. I have to experiment more, but I'm sure there is also live playing there, and also drums, some sort of jazzy drums. It sounds very jazzy, but processed and very electronic. Really interesting album. Thank you, Fik. Once again, I discover amazing music thanks to you. Yes, so thank you. Okay, so let's have a look. Again, disclaimer, it's not my strength to design or to find sounds from other people. I'm really not good at this. The results never sound even closely or remotely similar, but it's still a fun process, and I think there is always something to learn. But please, what I did here sounds terrible, so don't judge me on this. But you can take those ideas and develop them in your own way, and maybe make them sound better. So the first thing that I thought that was going on there is pinging filters. So this whole rhythm in the background sounds like filters being pinged. And then again, I listened to it again and again. Really interesting album. Again, I will say it again and again. No, but I listened to it again, and I somehow I got the impression that maybe there is a rings in there somewhere. There is something like physical modeling something going on there. So first of all, let me show you the filters. I have 4 filters that I'm pinging, creating this rhythm. Maybe without the 4th one. Let's start with the 3 filters, bandpass filters. Right, and then I listened to it again and I thought maybe there's a rings in there. It sounds like the case is full of LFOs and everything is being modulated by those LFOs. Everything is always moving. Also the pitch of the voices. Also here the pitch is moving with an LFO. So it sounds a bit out of tune, but again, this is rhythmic. Another bandpass filter is doing all sorts of different effects. Right? Every now and then. Right, so again, I'm not so sure if it's physical modeling or it's pinging filters. They sound a bit the same, but there is something going on there. The rhythms are very blicky, blacky, blippy, bloopy, which is quite interesting. The next interesting thing that's going on there, I think that the snare is going through some sort of a Karplus strong-like effect. So if it's a comp filter or if it's a delay, which is basically the same, but a delay with short delay times. Again, also here, lots of modulation with an LFO. And basically you get this sort of Karplus strong snare-like sound. It will sound like this. Right? Maybe the LFO should be quicker. Right? And just a tad of reverb, just a bit, really small sized reverb. This is of course just noise going to the delay. Right, but there is this is Karplus strongy like sound. Another one, there is this solo line or melody. In this case it's a bit too loud, I think. So I'm not so sure if it's random notes or if it's someone playing those notes. Again, there are 2 people, so they have many hands to do stuff. So maybe someone is playing those notes, maybe it's a loop. But there is some randomness going on there. And something interesting here is, again, the pitch modulation. The pitch is always moving up and down. It's not stable, it's not static. So here in this case, I'm using random modulation. There's also panning modulation. Right? Just sort of random notes here and there. Then there is the shaker. I'm pretty sure the shaker is playing is a loop of an actual shaker, an actual instrument. I'm not so sure it was synthesized. Maybe. I'm not so sure. But I added a shaker with the. I think I have a video about this with the trick of the 2 choppers, the 2 tremolo effects. Basically noise, high pass filter, and then 2 tremolos in series. Right, it will sound like this. And then there is the bass, and also here in the bass there is lots of movement, modulation for the pitch. The pitch is always moving, it's not stable, it's not static, there is no scale or something like this. Right, it's just moving. I have here an LFO going to the pitch. Basically it's a saw wave going through a filter, nothing too amazing. Right, sounds like a rubber band, like. And I think the rhythm I got here is a bit too static. I think it has more movement to it, maybe lots of swing or maybe modulation of the swing. There is something there with the rhythm. Again, it sounds really jazzy, really interesting. Then there is glitch a bit. I'm just using again one of the bandpass ping filters. And Chronoblob 2 for the glitch. Again, there's a video all about this, how to create glitch with Chronoblob 2 with a delay. Right, just weird noises here and there, left and right. Panning modulation with LFOs, lots and lots of LFOs. I think he has like 60 LFOs in this case. And then there is this chirping sound. I used in this case an oscillator. You can use also a filter, but basically a sine wave with lots of modulation, pitch modulation, very high tuned, and it's also sort of random, right? Those chirping sounds. Again, it sounds terrible, it sounds really bad, but the ideas are there, you know, lots of modulation, rhythms, pinging filters, this couple strong snare. Right, so please, if you download this patch, try and make it sound better and send me a sample. I want to see how it sounds like when it sounds good. And again, go listen to the album, to the whole collection of tracks. Really interesting, lots of jazzy drumming stuff. Yeah, so this is what I came up with. I hope this is somewhat helpful. This patch will also be available on Patreon if you're interested. The next question is from Marcus. Hi, what modules and techniques are recommended for arranging? The more ideas, the better. I don't mind guiding it in real time, but would also like a fully automated patch sometimes, but a creative arrangement for sure. Thanks. Okay, Marcus. So first of all, if you want arranging, if you want to build tracks, if you want to make your life easier, and you can, and of course, only if you can afford it, get the VST and work in a DAW. It will make your life so much easier. If this is what you are looking for, if you are looking for arranging, if you are looking for automation, if you are looking for clip launching and stuff like this, do yourself a favor. If you can afford it, get the VCV VST. It will make your life so much easier. I think if this is what you want, then the VST would be the best and easiest solution. Of course, it will cost you a lot of money, but I think if this is what you're looking for, then it's totally worth it. That said, there are some dedicated modules that you can use for arranging. For example, Zoom A from Bido. I really like the sequencer. As you might notice, it has also patterns and you can switch between the patterns. It has also fields, right? So you can click a button and there is a whole different sequence all of a sudden. So you can really use this for more switching and patterns and stuff like this. And again, arranging your songs. It has 8 tracks, so you can use drums, you can use melodies, bass, whatever, percussion. You can sequence everything with it. You can have 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them. It has also CV output, so you can really create interesting arrangements. Another one is Foundry from Impromptu. This has 4 tracks. Again, you can use them for everything. You can also do percussion. And it has also song mode, right? So you can actually build a song, hit play, and the song will play without you touching it. And you can have your hands free for playing with different parameters like filters and stuff like this. Right, and you have 4 channels. Again, you can have 2, 3, 4, 5 of them and have a whole arrangement set. Again, also the gate sequencer from Impromptu. This is maybe more for drums. It has 4 channels. And also this one has song mode, and you can switch the songs, the patterns, by the way, also manually. You don't have to create a song. But again, if you want something fully automated, then those 2 might be an interesting way to approach this. Another sequencer is the Sec++ from Squinkly Labs. Also here, right, you have all sorts of different options. It's basically a sort of a piano roll style sequencer. And also here you can create patterns, I believe, and switch between them. Yeah, so you can create all sorts of different sequences with this. And there is the entry and timeline. Again, this is a commercial module. All the other ones are free. This is a commercial module. But again, if you want to make your life easier, if you want arranging, if you want sequencing, then maybe this is for you. You can see it has different tracks. Each track you can choose to have a melody, a MIDI, you can load MIDI into it, a drum clip, a CV or gate for automation. You can sequence, you can create songs, you can create patterns, you can hit play and everything will run, or you can control it by yourself, you can record onto it. You can do all sorts of different things. That's a garbage truck outside, sorry for the noise. But you can do all sorts of different things with the entry and timeline. Really, again, if you are looking for arranging, then maybe just go for the right tool, I guess. And something I showed before is the Acne from Bido. Again, you have a mixer with snapshots that you can save snapshots and switch between them. So this might also be helpful. There is another thing I want to show you, but first of all, again, I mentioned the VST. If you want arranging, if this is what you are looking for, if it's important to you and you can afford it, then get the VST. It will make your life so much easier, seriously. If not, consider using one of these sequencers. Or there is another tool that you can use. It's still not in the library, the Stormelder collection. I will put a link to it in the description, but you can download it, it's working. And you can use it, and there is 8-Face Mark II, or just 8-Face, never mind, that you can map to a module and save snapshots for any module, which means also sequences and also mixers and stuff like this. So you can really create an arrangement. And then, for example, I'm using 12 key to switch between the scenes, let's say. You can use a keyboard, you can automate this also with another sequencer with CV. I'm using sample and hold here, by the way, just so the changes are synced to the clock. Right, so here I have a sort of a bass sound with Keycall and the Sec3, and I have more percussion here and another voice with Opolus with another sequencer. And I have two 8-Faces, one for the Sec3, one for the other sequencer. You can see they have like a blue frame, which means that they are mapped to 8-Face. And I have the 12 key going to both of them. So if I unmute this, right, this is the first scene. I can switch to the second one. Right, the third. And there's a different sequence also. Again, you can save a preset or a snapshot of everything. And then another one. Right, so you can create like these arrangements, you can automate this with another sequencer, you can switch it manually. Right, with the keyboard, with if you have like pads that you want to use. So this is another tool you can use, the 8-Face. You will need one 8-Face for each module. So if you want to automate or to arrange 50 modules, you will need 50 8-Faces. It's not so bad, but it's a bit of work. Again, make your life easy if you can afford it and you are looking for arranging, go for the VST. It will make your life so much easier. You can use something like Reaper even, which is really affordable, a DAW which is really affordable, or go for something like Ableton or Bitwig or Cubase and make your arrangements there. It will make your life so much easier. The next question is from Mono. Hi Mono. I saw this video recently. This video is from Jakub Ciupinski. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The one and only, the true, the real thing when it comes to synthesis and everything basically. So you saw this video and found it incredible to use the clock BPM like this. Unfortunately, the patch doesn't work in VCV2 and the author doesn't have the time to adapt it. Can you either suggest alternative modules to make the patch work in VCV2 or just explain how and why this works? Thanks, Tony. All right, Tony, hi. So I'm not so sure which modules are not available because they are all available basically. And I recreated this patch, and I will save it and I will upload it to Patreon. And basically is using the formula to create a sort of a ratio between the clock of the sequencer and the clock of the sample and hold. And this ratio creates all sorts of different rhythms and results. Really interesting stuff. Again, Jakub Czupinski, the one and only when it comes to everything, basically synthesis and all sorts of different tips and tricks. So again, I will save this patch. If there is something else missing, I don't think I missed anything in this patch. Everything is available. I will save this as a selection and upload it to Patreon so you can download it and use it. The next question is from Oscar. Hi Oscar, do you have any recommendations for free granular modules in VCV besides Clouds and Supercell? Already hoping to check out PathSet soon. Yes, so PathSet for sure. Free VSTs are also welcome. Alright, cool. So there are a few modules from the Vox Glitch collection. There is the Grain Engine Mark II, where you can load up to 5 samples. You can switch between the samples, you can change the pitch, the grain size, the window, the envelope of the grains, and the position, and so on. You can even have an external clock. You have a pen input to modulate the penning. You have the grain effects, which will be an effects module, so you don't have to load any sample onto it. You can just run audio through it, and again, change the different settings, grain size, spawn rate, and so on. And there is ghosts that you can also load the sample. And again, also here, change the position, the pitch, the length, right, of the sample, the quantity, the amount of grains, and how many of them will be generated. So yes, Vox Glitch. There is also one VST that is new, which is this one here, Emergence. This is a new free granular VST that should be quite interesting. I still didn't get a chance to test it or to check it out, but it should be quite interesting. So look for Emergence. I will put also a link in the description. The next question is from Simon. Hi Simon, greetings from the Pyrenees. Hi. I would be interested to see some different approaches on how to vary note lengths within a given sequence. In DAW land, you just drag the box and make it longer on the piano roll. To add context, I listen to lots of reggae and I'm experimenting in VCV with dub-style bass lines. Okay, one more question or request. I would be fascinated to see a VCV build replicating some of the Macbeth modules. I know Colin Benders uses the oscillators, but it seems there is a whole Macbeth ecosphere out there for those who can afford such things. So first of all, let's start with the Macbeth. I had a look and I'm not so sure if it's possible to do something like this because they have a sound to them. I mean, if you want to replicate the oscillators or the filters, you will need to build a filter from scratch, basically, because basically they have a really interesting sound, different sound, unique sound for the Macbeth. And I'm not so sure that it's possible to recreate this sound. I mean, there are different filters, there are different oscillators in VCV, but the sound of the filters and the sound of the oscillators of those Macbeth modules, I'm not so sure. I didn't see any other or many other modules other than oscillators and filters. I should look again, but maybe there is something that can be done. But again, this is a unique sound and it's difficult unless you are building a filter or an oscillator from scratch and try to replicate them exactly. It's difficult to use already made modules that have their own sound to replicate a sound of a different module, especially in hardware, especially something like Macbeth. Which is, I'm sure it's not for nothing so expensive. I'm sure there is something behind there that makes it sounds as it sounds. Okay, so let's go back to the note length. So first of all, I have again a video on Patreon about adding rests and ties to simple sequences. I think you also have access to it. It's for the modular fun guys and girls tier. I think you are also in this tier. But anyway, there's a video about adding rests and ties. So this can help you adding a bit more movement, try to add a bit more space. There's a lot of space in the bass lines, right? Reggae and dub, lots of space to add space to the bass lines. And also this can help you also with ideas on how to add, to change the length of the notes. But I think the easiest will be, and I have an example here, is just to use a dedicated tool for it. If you want to make your life easier, why not? Not use a dedicated tool for it, basically. In this case, I'm using a sequencer, Zoom A, again, amazing sequencer. You can do all sorts of things with it. And it has CV outputs, and with those CV outputs, you can use to basically sequence the length of the notes, basically the sequence, the length of the envelope. The longer the envelope, the longer the note, right? And of course, you can do this with other sequencers. You can also do this with dedicated sequencers, like you have a sequencer for pitch and you have a different sequencer for the envelope length, basically. So how long the note will be. So here I have a sort of an example. It was fun building this. I have here a bass sound with key call, and you can see I have CV1 going to the decay, which means that sometimes on some notes, the decay will be shorter note. Sometimes the decay will be longer note. To sound like this. Right? 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 Also, there are shorter notes, there are longer notes. Again, this is coming from the decay. Then I have a kick from Tremor 2. Right, there is space there. Then there is hats also from Tremor 2. Right, and also here I'm adding some movement to the volume. Right, again with the CV output. Then there is a snare. And a snare delay I have here. This is going to a Chronoblob 2 with the filter and the feedback loop to create this dubby. This dubby sound. And then there are chords. Right, and also to the chords I'm using basically an envelope. And sometimes the gate is longer, sometimes the gate is shorter, sometimes the envelope will be longer, so longer note length. Basically, when you change in the DAW, when you change this line, right, you change the sustain basically. If you have, for example, a synthesizer in your DAW that has no sustain, it will not matter how much you change the line. The sound needs a sustain in order that the line length will have an effect. So also here, instead of line, think of a gate. You change the gate length, you change the length of the note basically. So this is with the chords. And also here I have some dub delay. Right? Right, so again, use a dedicated tool. I think it's the easiest. You will need some sort of CV. It can be a sequencer, it can be random, and change the length of the envelope. Sometimes it's in a built-in module, like Kick All, it has built-in decay. Sometimes you will need to use an envelope. And again, think of the line in the DAW as a gate length, basically. And when you change the gate length, you will change the length of the note. So again, this can be randomly, this can be with a sequencer, in all sorts of different ways you can do this. And that's it. The next question is from Chris. Hi Chris, let's say I want to make a techno song, kick, bass, melody, percussion. What are for you the most productive free paid native VCV modules? I want to make a decent, good mapped MIDI controller setup, but I don't want to spend time to check the Valhalla of modules in VCV. I rather want to spend my time more on creating than experimenting. Nevertheless, your amazing tutorial videos and presets are helping a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to separate the wheat from the chaff in the VCV library, if you know what I mean. Yes, I know what you mean and I can totally relate. So many options out there. Let me tell you this. You can do almost everything with the VCV modules. So first of all, the first thing that I recommend is getting the drums. The VCV drums. first of all, they sound amazing. Second of all, they will make your life much easier. Again, instead of using so many different modules to synthesize drums, which you can also do, but again, you want productivity, and they can help you stay productive. They are not samples, they are synthesized and they sound great. They are from VCV. Volt coded them, which means that they are also really high quality. So I really recommend the drums. You get also the drum machine. I recommend you get both of them, but to use the separate modules, you have a bit more control. You can mix them also differently and do all sorts of different things a bit easier, or you can use the drum machine as you want. So first of all, the second one, it's not VCV, but I think it's the only module that you will need outside of the VCV collection, which is the MindMeld mixer and expander. You have everything you need there. You can also connect the EQ if you want. You have send effects, right? This is not VCV. This is not from VCV, but still it's available for free and you can use it as your mixer. Other than this, everything you can do from VCV. There is the SEC3, a nice sequencer. I will show you another sequencer that I recommend from VCV soon. Everything you need, have a few oscillators, some wavetable oscillators, VCAs. I keep hitting the mic. Some effects. Right, there are also the new modules, the fade, the logic module. There is the mixer. You can have a few filters. Filters are great not only for filtering, but also for level control. So you can also use this as level control, have a few envelopes, right? And basically this is all what you need. You don't need more than this. What I do recommend, maybe if you want, I don't have it. I'm not so sure why I should buy it because it's a really interesting sequencer. The Pulse Matrix, it's a commercial from VCV, and it's a great sequencer for percussive, for drums. Not only, of course, but also you can randomize things. You can have different directions for each row. You can do all sorts of different interesting things with it. And basically it's a sort of a matrix that you can also mix, I think, things. Anyway, I have to get this. But again, this is VCV, also a commercial module. Yes, and this is basically all you need. I have this saved as a selection. I will upload it to Patreon as well. Download it and experiment with this setup. You don't need more than this. Maybe if you don't have the Pulse Matrix, you will need 1 or 2 more SEC3s. But you can do everything with this. You have oscillators, you have filters, you have LFOs, you have random modulation, envelopes, drums, some effects. This is it, basically. And of course, if you need a reverb, then choose your favorite reverb. But this is it. So download this, experiment with this. Let me know how it goes. Sorry. Let me know how it goes and have fun. The next question is from Mr. Hagi. Hi, I've been looking to make a good bass like the 303, preferably with as few modules as possible. Any ideas? And then you updated and you said that you found the 303 from Bacon Music, which is great. Just really quickly, I want to show you other things. Not show you, just give you a bit more things to experiment with. There is bass from Autin, which is basically everything you need for the filter. There is a filter, there is accents, and also filter modulation with an envelope, right? You just send your oscillator into it and then out from it, and you can do everything there. Sounds great also. There is also Nitrous from Volt, which is an acid filter that you can also experiment with, and also a sort of a 303 type filter from Nischi also to experiment with. You found your solution, but maybe you would want to experiment with these as well. Next question is another one from Peter. Hi again, Peter. Is it possible to create surround sounds quadraphonic in VCV Rec? That would be awesome. That would be awesome indeed. And it is possible. So first of all, you have to keep in mind that in order to send out at least 4 signals, you will need also an audio interface and 4 speakers, right? Physically, hardware, you will need an audio interface that has 4 outputs and also 4 speakers, at least for quadraphonic. If you want more, you will need more outputs and more speakers. And you will need also to use the audio 16 probably, or the audio 8. So you have also more outputs that you can send. For example, if you have 4 speakers, you can send to 1, 2, 3, and 4. right? And you have it on your audio interface set as 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it will go to the different speakers. And a module you can use, for example, to pan this quadrophonically is the quad panner from Nischi. Basically, you send your audio into it, right? You have your mono input, and then you have 4 outputs, A, B, C, and D, that you just send to 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Again, to the 4 speakers, to the physical hardware 4 speakers, and then you can move between them and scan between them and quadrophonically pan the sound. You can also have here swirl that will move by its own. You can change the rate, you can change the amplitude, you can modulate all sorts of different things, and you can also chain them, right? So for example, if I want more voices to pan differently, right? So I can also chain them. A will go to A, B, C to C, and D to D, right? And then they are chained and you can pan them differently and have multiple voices. You can have as many as you want, quad panner, or as many as your computer will allow you. And again, don't forget that if you want this, you will need physically to have 4 speakers and 4 outputs from your audio interface, right? This is important. You cannot, if you have an audio interface that has just like headphones outputs or just 2 outputs, you will not be able to use this quadrophonically because you need at least 4 physical speakers, and then use something like the Audio 16 or also the Audio 8 is enough if you want just 4 channels, right? And use 1, 2, 3, and 4, or how your interface is set up. If it's 1, 2, 5, and 6, or 9, 10, 11, 12, just see how your setup is. And then you can use the quad panner to pan things around. The last question is from David. Hi, David. If this reply isn't too late. No, it's not too late. I've been really curious if there is an ideal but not yet existing module or feature you wish you had. Like you're making a patch or working on a piece and you think I want an X to be able to do Y, and no module does exactly that yet. I completely agree that constraints are the doorway to creativity, to creation. So working with the modules others have made and accepting them as they are is a huge amount of fun. But sometimes maybe there is a time when you dream of a module feature that doesn't exist in reality yet. If so, what would that module feature be? So I don't think I have any features that don't exist at all. Maybe there are some features that I wish that were in one module, for example, and they are spread in different modules. Also in hardware, it's the same. Sometimes there is a module that is doing something and I say, okay, I wish it had this also, but it's something that exists already. It's not something that doesn't exist. For example, just out of my head like this, Oct, for example, from Instruo, I wish it had a reset input. So you can reset also the LFOs and make them a bit more repetitive, I guess, and rhythmic. But again, reset input for LFOs is something that exists. It's not anything new. So I don't think I have anything new that doesn't exist. I do have many ideas and many ideas for modules also. I'm completely useless. I'm completely ignorant when it comes to coding and designing also. So that's why I don't have anything. Maybe in the future, but wink, wink, maybe in the future. There will be something something that I don't want to say I created, because again, I'm not going to code it and I'm not going to design it, but that I'm a part of, let's say. So I'm not so sure if there is something that doesn't exist. Maybe there are a few things that exist, but just on different modules. And again, I have many ideas, so we will see what the future will bring. That was it. Thank you again, Patreons, for your questions and, of course, for your support. Come join us on Discord if you're a Patreon. If you are not a Patreon, come join us on Patreon. It's fun. Thank you again. Cheers.